Alright, got myself another PS3. This is a PS3 Fat. This one supposedly is a fully backward compatible. One way you can tell is the 4 USB ports in the front, and this thing flips up right here. But as you can tell by the title of this video and all this right here, all I'm really going to do, at least in this video, is take it apart, clean out all the dust, reapply the thermal paste on the heatsink and the heat spreaders. But I'm not going to do a D-lid. The reason why I'm not going to do a D-lid in this video is because I don't have a heat gun. And I'm going to do that over at Free Geek, where I can have a proper heat gun. And I already have the little pry tools already set up over there for me to work on this. So I'm actually going to do this outside because, well, I'll have nice heat and whatnot. And let's be honest, this thing's going to be dusty. And I don't want to be working on anything inside the house because I don't want dust in the house more than it already is. So I'm just going to take this thing apart and just come back whenever I see fit. Also, another thing I want to note is the seal right here has never been touched. And even the hard drive is original too. So this thing's never been opened. So it's going to be a nightmare in this thing. Okay, well, it looks like I was wrong about the hard drive. The hard drive has been, or at least the original owner tried to pull it out, but obviously he stripped the screws. So now I got to get some pliers and pry this thing out. So that's going to be annoying. But as far as I know, like I said, the sticker here hasn't been touched. Also, I forgot to give a little bit of backstory of this thing. I think I mentioned I got this over at my local Free Geek for $75. The reason why I got it is because when I initially got this thing, or initially saw this over at Free Geek, it had a little sticker on it saying the HDMI port doesn't work. And when I brought it home and turned it on, the HDMI port works completely fine. So I don't know what to say at that point. So if I manage to fully resurrect this thing, do the D-lid and whatnot without busting this thing, for $75, I got myself a nice backwards compatible PS3. The only major gripe I have on this is the Blu-ray drive does not seem to work. Someone was saying either the Blu-ray, the laser disc itself is dead, there's a blown fuse, or something. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe some of the little rubber bands, I forget what you call them, what you actually meant to call them. Those probably, I'm thinking maybe one of those might be faulty, and that might need to be replaced. If that's the case, then that should be easily fixable. So yeah, I'm gonna pull this thing apart, and yeah. All right, now the moment of truth. Let's see if this hard drive is original or not. And of course, I can't pull it. And of course, I had to pull it the other way. Okay, yeah, this hard drive is original. I can just tell by all that dust. And this is definitely from a smoker, so yeah, it's a good thing I'm cleaning this thing out outside. The little rubber cap completely disintegrated when I tried to pull it. So yeah, I think it's safe to say this thing has never been opened. So now next step of opening it up. Well, initial impressions, it's not as nasty as I thought it was. But it is still nasty, nonetheless. And these little pieces of canned air, they ain't gonna have enough for it. I do have a nice big old industrial, well, not industrial size, but a big old air compressor that my father has. I can use that if it really needs it, but I'm gonna try to get do with this. Alright, so far it's not as nasty as I thought. I know I said it before, but I'll say it again. As of right now, I mean, it's definitely there and it's noticeable, but it's not the dumpster fires I've seen on the PS3 group I am on in Facebook and whatnot. Yes, I still use Facebook, cry about it. But this thing's not as nasty as I initially thought. So what I'm doing is, as I'm taking this thing apart, I'm bringing all the parts into the kitchen, that way so I can do proper cleaning and whatnot. The only reason why I'm doing this outside again is so I can get all the dust outside instead of having it inside and circulating throughout the house and whatnot. So now I just gotta remember how to pull this cable off, that way so I can fully remove it. Then I can start the process of pulling the power supply and everything else out. The real thing I'm gonna be interested in seeing is what the heatsink looks like. And of course, my father chooses the worst times to mow the lawn, especially when I'm recording a video. With that said, as you can see, the thing's pretty nasty, especially in here. So I'm going to try and get as much of this crap out as I can with this canned air. And since I'm in the garage, I have the option of the big old air compressor right there if I need. But for the time being, hopefully the Canadair will work, and I do have a supervisor right now with me too. Well, surprisingly enough, it's not as kicked as I initially thought it would be. It is definitely there and very much noticeable, but the heat sinks themselves are actually relatively clear for the most part. I mean, considering how nasty it was, it's honestly quite surprising that it's not as caked as I initially thought. So I'm going to strip the rest of this thing down and bring everything into my kitchen, and I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to get back to this thing. So I'll come back in maybe an hour or two my time, but literally a second later in YouTube video time, obviously, because of editing. And there goes my sleeping schedule. I just got done playing Sea of Thieves. So with that said, the console's been laid out on the kitchen table now for a few hours. So the next step for me to do is to actually get it out of the way so my mom can do her normal routines when she wakes up, and I'll deal with this thing when I actually wake up. But with that said, the thermal paste is original, so that's good. So hopefully I don't think I destroyed anything. This right here is just a bunch of dust. I'll just clean right up. So the reason why I'm not going to work on it right now is because, well, it's 3:30 a.m. and I want to go to bed. So I'm just going to move this stuff out of the way so my mom can do her normal routine when she wakes up later. And I'm going to go to bed. And I thought I'll mention this is the thermal paste I'll be using for when I reapply it on there just to test the thing, and also when I go to Free Geek and actually do a proper D-lid. So yeah. And I'm pretty certain you saw this shell right here. This shell is from my PS3 Slim. As you can see, I modified it a long time ago, and I did a shell swap. And here's the shell swapped to PS3 Slim. It kind of needs to be cleaned, but this shell is an original shell. I got this from my local Free Geek. The PS3 Slim I stole this from was dead, so pulling the shell off of it and using it on my working one was something I wanted to do. So if I sign on botch this fat PS3, I still have this that I can use. I don't want to botch it, obviously, because it's backwards compatible. But if I do, I still have a PS3 I can use. And before I call it for today, I do want to mention that if I do manage to fully revive this thing, I'm not going to be using it that often because these are very rare, or not very rare, but they're rare, and they do tend to die. So I'm not really going to use it that often. It's more just me wanting to have something like this in my minuscule collection of piss poor threes. Alright, it is now the next day, or same day, but I finally woke up. I just got done cleaning off all the dust I need on these things. I'll do a more proper de-dusting as I'm putting the whole thing back together. So one thing I do need to figure out is where this little thermal pad go, because it apparently goes somewhere over here, but I don't know where, so I'm going to find an iFixit guide on this particular PS3. And then once that's done, then I'm going to clean out the thermal paste and start putting this thing back together. I'm not going to be doing a D-lid as of right now because I just want to make sure I didn't kill this thing. I don't think I did. So I'll get this thing all relatively cleaned up off camera and put back together to a testable state. And when that's done, I will come back. Alright, I found out where the little thermal pack goes. Also, I got a supervisor again. This one once in the house, so she's very annoying and she needs love and affection. Oh boy, outdoor cats. I'll let you in just for a little bit. You are an outdoor cat, you know that. Come on. Come here, you little annoyance. Happy now? Yeah, she happy. Alright, got it back together enough to where I can test it. I got a monitor out here so I can see if it still fires up. So the first thing to do is flip the power switch. I get a red light. Does the controller still charge? I think the thing needs to be on to do that. So which button is it to turn this thing on? I think it's this. Alright, got a blue light on the monitor. And would you look at that? It still works. I have to reset the time and date because I had to pull the CMOS battery out of this thing to actually fully disassemble it. So the next step for me to do is to change the date and time and see if I can get the DVD drive to function. It will detect CDs I can put them in and whatnot, but I don't think it actually spools them up. So let me get all this set up and I'll come back. Alright, I got the obligatory GTA 5. Let's be honest, everyone has this game at this point. So the console is able to read or detect that there's a disc being inserted. It can take the disc, but from what I can tell, the actual disc itself does not want to spin in the actual system. The PS3 though does detect that there is a drive in there, and is trying to read it, or not drive, but a disc in here is trying to read it. Now that's the fan kicking in. But yeah, it can detect the disc and whatnot, but it doesn't want to seem to spool it up. So now I gotta pull this thing apart and see what's going on inside. I'm thinking the actual drive motor that spools the disc up is probably bad. Before I actually pull the disc drive apart, why not try just a normal music CD? I still don't hear it spooling up. And just like before, it does detect the CDs in there, but it's not doing anything because by now it shows changed over to the music area and whatnot, but that obviously hasn't happened. So again, my guess is the actual motor that spools the discs up is bad because luckily the eject and whatnot still work. So I think I will post a short little video to the group I'm in and get their opinion. Alright, someone in the group I'm in suggested that the laser needs to be replaced. From what they said, the laser needs to be able to read the disc first before the actual disc spins up. I can kind of understand that, but every single time I took apart a DVD drive, the DVD spins up first, then the laser reads. It could be that it could be reversed for PS4 5, PS4 3. It wouldn't surprise me. This is Sony, but I doubt that's the case. So I'm going to pop the cover off and whatnot. That way so I can actually see what's going on and hopefully diagnose what the issue is. Alright, it turns out the laser is in fact dead. So let me remove that, pull that, put the CD in, and you would still be able to see at least a little bit of a glow coming from the laser. Now this is a Blu-ray, so let me swap it out for a non-Blu-ray disc. That way, so if the red laser was working, we'll be able to see what the red laser does. And as you can see, there's no red laser also. So it turns out the laser on this thing is in fact dead. Hopefully that isn't too expensive to replace. I can't see why it wouldn't be. So the next step for me to do is to, well, finally put the rest of this thing back together again, jailbreak it, and actually run a game on it. Let me first make sure I have everything properly centered for the disk drive and whatnot. Alright, so I'm going to put the rest of this thing back together, and then I'll come back when I get this thing jailbroken. Alright, so I have it back up and running. I cleaned off as much as I could. It's still a stinky, smoking PS3. But with that said, I'm currently in the process of updating the software to the latest. Surprisingly, they're still releasing updates for this thing. It's now at 4.90. So I said I'll come back when I jailbreak it. Apparently, the site you use to jailbreak these things is currently under attack again by some little brainlet. So I'm probably going to have to wait like a week or so before I jailbreak this thing again. Whoop-de-doo. So I get to now at the very least sign into my account and I'll at least run something like Minecraft on it for a bit. So I'll just let it update in, yeah. Alright, so I have a game finally installed. I had a weird little issue where I would get audio in the home menu or whatever you call it for a PS3. But when I went to launch Minecraft, all audio cut. Now, I don't know what I did to resolve the issue. I activated the console. I unplugged the little wireless receiver I was using for my keyboard here. And I also went into sound settings and pointed to the HDMI port. I don't know what I did to resolve the sound, but I got the sound working finally. That was annoying. And when it comes to jailbreaking this thing, there is an alternative site I can use to jailbreak this thing, which is what I'm going to probably end up using. But for right now, I just want to run Minecraft on this thing for a bit, like maybe 30 minutes to an hour or so, just to see if it automatically shuts off overheating. Because, I mean, it is producing heat. It obviously needs a D-lid. But compared to my original fat PS3 I had, which wasn't or fat PS3 I had like a year ago or so, which wasn't backwards compatible, it was far more noisier than this one right here. So I'll just let this sit for a while. I'm obviously going to play a little Minecraft and then do other stuff. Alright, so now it's the next day, and after a while trying to get this stupid jailbreak to function, I finally got it to work. So, a little annoying because I thought since it is like a near original PS3, this definitely is not a launch model, obviously, but it's one of the very first ones. I was hoping that this would be a lot more easier to jailbreak than something like a Slim was, but obviously I had to like reset the console a few times, just let it sit for a while, and then try it again, and finally worked. So I'll finish up the jailbreak and come back. Oh yeah, I just remembered something. This thing's using the original hard drive it came with. So I'm going to be swapping that out, which means I'm going to have to redo this all over again. But with that said, I'm not going to do anything like that yet until I get the Blu-ray drive working again and I delid the thing. Because I'm not going to spend money on a hard drive for this thing if I end up breaking it on the delid and whatnot. I don't think I will because I am fairly delicate when it comes to these, and I've done this at least a few times where I generally know what to do, but there is always a risk of me accidentally breaking these things or breaking it. So yeah, you can definitely tell the hard drive needs to be replaced because it's taking a little while to install. Alright, so I powered it off. Let's reboot it again and see what happens. Yay, I finally jailbroke my PS3. It's going to be really annoying to do it again. But for the time being when it comes to this video, that's pretty much all I really need to do other than just installing the necessary tools so I can actually monitor temperatures and whatnot. So I'll do that and then come back and then probably end the video there because let's be honest, this is just a fat PS3 and there are better videos out there about these things. Granted, I have no idea when I'm actually going to title this video anyways. Alright, so I got it finally all up and running, got all the jailbreak crap I needed on it. I'm currently in the process of getting the game installed, Macross 30. And as you can see, temperatures as of right now are, I'm guessing, fine for what it is. Obviously, like I keep saying, it does need to be delidded. Now, with that said, Macross 30 graphically isn't that demanding like GTA 5 or Killzone is. So if I really want to see the temperatures of this thing, I'll need to put one of those games on it. But I just want to get Macross 30 up and running because, in all honesty, that's the real game I care about when it comes to my PS3 collection. If I can get Macross 30 functioning on all my PS3s I got, which are two, obviously this one right here, and my Slim right there, then I'm happy. Alright, some time has passed. I managed to get Killzone up and running on it. And as you can see, it's been running for about 30 minutes and it's somewhat warm. It may not actually need the D-lid, but I'm going to do it anyways because I do want to lower the temperatures. And let's be honest, this is a backwards compatible and it is very much worth going through the extra steps and making sure this thing lives a nice long life. So I'm going to get myself ready to go to Free Geek and whatnot. Alright, I'm at my local Free Geek and I found the other PS3 we had. It was a different model number, but the drive is basically the exact same. So the first thing I need to do is when I power this thing on is to see if I get a light from the laser. Okay, I didn't get anything, but that's to be expected considering there's no disc in it. But let's see if I still get an image. Alright, I still get an image, so let me grab a CD we have laying around to see if I get a drive working. Well, I found something better, a Blu-ray. Alright, it's obviously spinning, but it doesn't have a way to grasp, so let me eject it. Alright, got the little spindle attached. I gotta get a controller so I can actually see what's going on. Alright, got a controller hooked up, and it looks like the disc is showing up, so hopefully I can hit play, and it'll play. Well, I got myself a working Blu-ray drive. With that said, I need a game. I was originally going to use this, but I really don't want an Assassin's Creed on my PS3, so I'm going to see if we got something a little more my style. Alright, found something a little more my style. Yay! So next step is to delid this thing. But with that said, I'm actually going to get back to tasks around here because it's not really right for me doing my own personal thing when I'm on free geek time. Alright, it's 4:20. Stupid weed joke. My my tasks for free geek are more or less done for today, so now I'm going to take the opportunity to do a delid on my PS3 like I mentioned. And I got the heat gun right here. So I'm going to do all that off camera and pray to God I don't break this thing. Alright, the easy part has been done. The GPU has been delidded. Now the fun part. Alright, it is now the next day. I'm now home. And the reason why I didn't record after that is because, well, things happened over at Free Geek and I had to do Free Geek tasks. With that said, I did manage to delid the CPU. And I think I ripped out one of the little transistors. Luckily though, the system still turns on. And currently right now, it works completely fine. So I should get an image on my, yep. And I even got the Blu-ray drive replacement that I showed. So I'm going to now test that to make sure it still works. I'm pretty certain it does. Let me grab a game. Alright, got a game. Alright, this time I hear the disc pulling up. And it looks like I have a game, so let me grab a controller. Alright, and it looks to work, so I should be able to launch it. Alright, we're good to go. Now I just gotta figure out why the controller is not wanting to connect wirelessly. But then again, I do need to pull this thing apart because I do want to show what I actually pulled out, or I want to show the little transistor I pulled. And I also need to go through the process of fully cleaning out the CPU and whatnot, remove all the adhesive and whatnot they used, clean out the GPU and whatnot, and reuse and use good thermal paste because the thermal paste we have over Free Geek really isn't that adequate for, especially for something like a fat PS3. So game's just doing game thing, but it's launching and playing completely fine. So I'm going to tear this thing back down again and come back in a little bit. Alright, so I think I know exactly why the controller wasn't connecting. the ribbon cable that actually goes to the Bluetooth module right here wasn't fully seated into the motherboard. But that's completely fine because by the time by the time I put this thing back together, I was actually getting ready to leave. So I didn't really care about fully connecting everything up. I just had to connect all the basic crap up to make sure everything boots and whatnot. So I'll make sure to properly secure everything when I put the thing back together again for hopefully to be the final time for like another 5 years. Alright, so here's the board taken all apart again. So that little resistor I pulled off is this little guy right there. Then again, I don't know if there was a resistor there or not. If I look back on the footage and I zoom in, there is a resistor, so clearly I knocked it off. And yet the system itself still works completely fine. Now with that said, when I did boot it up after I noticed that the first time around, it did yellow light. It did yellow light for a quick second. Fan went to 100% yellow lighted, then just turned off. I unplugged it, turned it back on, and it booted up completely fine. So I guess I just got incredibly lucky. So obviously now the next step is to remove all the silicone on the CPU. Try and remove as much of that white goop on the memory chips for the GPU, and then use that good thermal paste I got from Best Buy and get this thing properly set up and whatnot. Alright, everything has been cleaned off to the best of my abilities, both on the board itself and on the IHSs, which you really can't see with this one. Well, you can. Don't know where the other one is. I lost the other IHS. Alright, found the other one. It was still attached to the heatsink. So I'm going to, well, I can do a little more cleaning on this one, but generally speaking, they're more or less ready to go. So I'm going to put this thing back together off camera and come back. Alright, gotta set it up in a way to where I can test it. Of course, obviously, day and time it needs to be reset again because I pulled the battery because I had to pull the whole thing apart. But so far, it seems to be working. Also, just like I thought, the reason why the controller wasn't connecting was because the ribbon cable was not fully seated. So, luckily, I didn't kill that. So, the next step for me to do is to enable the jailbreak crap and homebrew crap or whatever it's called and see what the temperatures are like. Alright, so far temperatures are relatively fine. Now, of course, this is at the home screen and whatnot. I do know that it is still working because when I initially ran this thing over at FreeGeek after I got done delidding it and just setting up enough thermal paste to make sure it works, when I enabled the homebrew stuff, the CPU was running at 70 degrees. I still don't like it running at 60, but it is definitely cooler than it was. So with that said, the real question is, even though it's running hot still, how will it actually sound when I'm gaming? Because when I was gaming with this thing prior to delidding, the fans will run to like maybe 40 to 50%. It'll be pretty noisy. So let's see if that'll be the case again. So let me load up Killzone and let that run for a bit. Alright, so it's been running now for about 8 minutes. It is definitely picking up noise and whatnot. That is to be expected considering this is a first-gen PS3, or not first-gen, but a PS3 Fat, sorry. Temperatures are a little hot, but I think previously I was like in the 70s. Give me a second. Alright, so previously the fan was at 43%. The temperature was definitely a little lower and a little higher, somewhat to an extent. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to bump the fan manually to 43 and see what happens. Because as you can see, for the most part, temperatures are rising, but the fan is relatively staying consistent. So I need to be more consistent in this video and manually change the fan speed. So I'm going to go and do that. Alright, so it's been running now for 10 minutes. And as you can see, I bumped the fan speed up to 45. And temperatures are about 10 degrees cooler, and it's far more noisier. But yeah, with that said, the delid did work in the end because even with it running at 30%, temperatures are still within check. Granted, I don't like it running at 60 odd degrees, but it's within what this thing is meant for, and it was significantly quieter than what it is right now. So I'll just let this sit for like another 30 minutes just to see what will happen. But generally speaking, it looks like the temperatures are more or less stabilized. Alright, and with the fan set at 40% in the game running for 30 minutes, temperatures have more or less evened out at a 58C. And again, it's a little hot, but I think for me, I'm probably gonna run this thing at 35% because at 50 or at 45, it's really noisy. While 35 should be, I mean, it's gonna be noisy, but not like it currently is. So the last thing I really want to do before I start fully reassembling this thing is making sure this card reader works. It didn't work when I initially tested, and I think it was because I didn't have the cable fully seated. But hopefully it'll work this time. Alright, and the card reader even works too. Though the hard drive being so old, it's taking a while for the actual card reader to gather all the metadata and whatnot for all the crap I have. But it's nice to see that the card reader itself also works. Alright, it is now day 4. I have finally got the PS3 working fully, or mostly got it put back together, and it's been working ever since. I also got myself a new-ish TV. This is actually an old one, but it's new to me, and to be quite honest, compared to the old video I had or the new video I had, which you saw previously throughout the video, this one I very much prefer, especially considering it's an older model. So the chances of the backlight on this thing dying are significantly less than the backlight on my previous one is. And also this thing has 3 HDMI ports to the 2. And it's also a 32-inch 1080p TV, so it'll fit perfectly with how I have everything set up. I have my Apple TV there. I have a little mini computer coming in that will be going into HDMI 2. And then I'll have my PS3 or my Xbox Series S plugged in to the back of the TV whenever. I mean, granted, I almost flip between the Xbox and the PS3. I'll just let the console go back and forth. But I'll probably only do that when GTA 6 comes out because that's the only reason why I have a Series S. I'm a PC gamer, obviously, which you really can't see because the computer's right behind my TV right there. But, yeah. So, I think I'm pretty much done with the video by saying I got my $75 backwards compatible PS3 up and running. Got a full-on D-lid, cleaned it out and whatnot as you saw, and it works completely fine. And I got a TV too, that's a better TV than what I originally had. And with that, that's pretty much the end of the video. Sorry about it being so long, but I'm not a professional YouTuber and I never will be, so yeah.